Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Smack Attack. If you've been smacked, you've been attacked. It's been that kind of week for you. I don't know about me, but ladies and gentlemen, James Money MacGyver is not here. He is well under the weather. He sounds like a squeak toy from Toy Story, the one that his voice didn't work, the penguin guy. And then now, hopefully, he gets better. So you're stuck with me, and of course, Hobby Media's favorite personality, the one, the only, the vet. I mean, if we have 8-year end awards and you don't win like personality of the year, then it's fucking rigged. I'm telling you that right now. Vet, how are you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to just now I assume you listened to the show last week that you missed, right?
I listened to most of it. Yes, I did. So
Okay, so you know that I started off by telling you how much I love coming on here with you guys and just crushing you down and making you feel like the sadness. You know, you were way too happy when I first hooked up with you guys, and I like to think that when I check in on you from time to time that I feel that pain just emanating through the screen. Like, yes, I have taught you well.
hey,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
it's
Can't
Sithmas
get
this
there.
year. It's Sithmas this year. Buckshot Kid, what up? You're the first person in the chat today. Good to see you. Good to see you there. So yes, I've decided this year it's Sithmas, so I'm celebrating my dark side, having experienced a full year of SmackDown, and just the pain it has wrought upon myself and everyone else.
Yeah,
So we're gonna share Sithmas this year. So that's how
I
we're
like it.
rolling. Yeah. So
We're gonna deal in absolutes. Uh,
yes, and emotions, and we're gonna all that
mhm.
fun stuff. We're gonna be all that. And yes, I am a Star Trek guy, but I like Star Wars too. So suck it, deal with it. NFO, you don't have the corner on everything Star Wars. I like Star Wars too. So
Well, all right.
I know I'm a Star by guy is what they go. I like to quote. Hey, it's 2022, right? We're about to be 2022. Welcome
Yeah.
to the modern world. Be that way. So
Right.
but yeah. So that I don't know about you, but this week already for me was crazy because here our kids are getting 3 weeks off for in Texas here, at least at our district. So like literally their last day was Friday or Thursday, as a matter of fact. And then they got out early. So like we've got kids running around for 3 weeks. Like they don't go back till January 10th. And I'm going, what the hell? Like that's longer than some kids who are in college breaks. And so which means my program, I'm not working this week, but I have to be at work.
Mm.
And I mean it just makes everything so because how do you have a teen program when there are no kids?
You don't.
Yeah, I know. So it's just like I'm like going, can I just have an extra week's vacation early? Come on, please. And they're like, no, you gotta show up to work. I'm like, well, you can take your vacation if you want. I have a vacation. Homeboy 88, what is up, man? Old school NFO guy showing up. Man, the vet brings everybody in. Look at this.
Oh well.
Buckshot Kid, Homeboy 88. Man,
Yeah.
you just tell people the vet's on the show, and then all of a sudden you're getting everybody. That's crazy.
Well, you know, I just
Uh,
I'm
uh,
just here to hang out. You know, I'm
uh,
I'm very happy if the people enjoy my presence. You know, it's always a balance. I like. I don't want there to be too much vet. I don't want it to be
right,
oversaturated with vet. You know, and
right.
I'm always the one that's like I'm the first number on the speed dial. No one even has speed dial anymore. Everything's just a
Yeah,
button now. But you know what I mean. Us
yeah,
old guys like that, we know what that
yeah.
means.
We know what it means.
Because they know that I'm always ready. It's not, and it may seem like that I don't have anything to do. That's not true. I have things to do, but it's just that my schedule, allows for me to usually be able to fill in for anybody that needs it, even on a short notice. And I'm going to be watching this wrestling stuff anyway, so the only difference is, do I get to vent about it or educate, as I like? I prefer to look at it as an education. Do I get to educate people, or do I just get to hold my head in my hands and cry, and then just keep it all inside, so
The latter, more so. Now, hey, Vet, I did want to ask you this question. Like I said, I didn't get to participate last week, but we're about what 3 to 5 months into we're having Rampage as well as SmackDown on Friday
mhm.
nights. How do you feel? When you have to watch both of these shows back to back, how do you feel it's going? RVBD. What RVB is in the house? Going to a car show. All right, cool. How do you feel it's been going so far? This quote unquote head to head competition.
It's more like head to ass, isn't it? I don't know. It's to me, it's much ado about nothing. You hear people talk about this all the time, like, well, Rampage only got 400,000 people. You would think with the lead in of dude. First of all, if you watch SmackDown like live as it's on, and then you flip over and watch Rampage like live as it's on, you're clearly over 50 years old, because there's nobody that has cable and is watching TV like that anymore. Like, what year is it really?
Yeah.
Everybody should DVR things and watch them later so that you could fast forward commercials and save yourself time. So that right off the bat, that's what I really think about it. But yeah, I just don't really know. Like, I haven't even watched Rampage yet. I don't know when I'm going to. I am going to. It is recorded, but I don't have like a particular. I can definitely say that if the second part of that first statement is also, if you watch SmackDown live as it's on for the whole 2 hours, by the time you're done with that show, you're going to be so sick of any wrestling or anything related to wrestling. I don't know if you can stomach another hour. So if anything, I think the lead in might hurt Rampage. But one thing that people always seem to do when they talk about these numbers is they just like to affix the numbers to whatever their narrative might be. Mm-hmm. So if you're an AEW basher, you're going to say, oh, well, you only got this many viewers. And if you're an AEW apologist, you're going to say, oh, well, we did this numbers compared to these things and these demos and other stuff like that, right? I really think it's just kind of, I think neither one is very important.
Yeah.
What you have to look at is you have to look at the trend of growth or decline over a period of time. If you are constantly going down and down and down and down, then that's bad. If you're constantly going up and up and up and up and up, that's good. If you fluctuate back and forth, you can't really tell what's going on. I think they should be. I think they should be happy with AEW should be happy with whatever they're doing, because it's not going to they're not going to, despite what everybody thinks, they're not going to book a match that's going to draw 1 million viewers. It's just not going to happen. So when you say, oh, why is CM Punk wrestling, Daniel Garcia? Like, it wouldn't, dude, if nobody cares about AEW, it doesn't matter if CM Punk is wrestling Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out of retirement, because nobody's even going to know it's on because they don't watch.
Right. Exactly.
So they're never going to save it with one match. They just have to keep doing what they want to do and kind of let people get on board slowly. And the WWE is going to push people off the boat, and AEW's going to come by with the lifeboats and pull people up onto their ship. And that's how I see it going, especially after watching this episode of SmackDown, which was so bad.
Oh my God.
In so many ways that, like the alternative product, that is really what AEW is presenting. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, like AEW does some shitty stuff too, but it's mostly just like predictable and boring. But for example, like last week, there was a lot of buzz for, like around the Hook finally debuting, right?
Right.
And I was a little surprised to see the buzz about it, because when I watched it, I'm thinking, I don't know if people know how good this is. Like, I don't give the fans like the credit that they would see how good it is. I only give the people with the trained eye the credit, but apparently everybody really enjoyed it.
Right.
And they were right to do it. So every once in a while, they'll give you something like really good like that. That's better than anything the WWE could really do now, even if they wanted to, or if they tried. But a lot of that depends on you having watched it. Like, if you hear that Hook had a great debut, did you see the debut?
I did, because I'm a Fuego guy because he's from our area.
Yeah, right.
So I'm watching. I was more watching for Fuego. I was interested to see how this was going to work out, because they've kind of pushed Fuego a little bit. He's become a big deal, and then Hook, and now, of course, now the other thing I found interesting, because I was interested in it because He's had no dark matches, no elevation matches, no nothing, and they're throwing him out on Friday night, which, of course we know it's a recorded show, it's not live, but still, I mean, for a Friday night debut for someone who's not made any appearances in ring, I thought it was a big deal. So I was interested. I watched it. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I could say was, I didn't like Hook selling, but then again, his dad is Taz. So I mean,
yeah, I mean, dude, do you really think that was an accident?
No, it wasn't.
Why should you sell in that situation? Exactly. There's nothing to sell. Yeah. So, I don't agree with that criticism either. We're going to see him. I'm sure if he's as good at everything else as he is, even if it's by accident, I'm sure he can sell if he would ever need to. But, but that being said, like, if you were to not ever watch AEW, then you hear about this debut and then you go watch it, you're not going to be impressed. You're going to sit there you're going to be like this skinny kid you're going to sit there with your arms folded, like, yeah. And it's not going to be impressive. But what makes it interesting for guys like us is that we've seen him this entire time and he just does nothing. He just stands there. He didn't say anything ever. He never did anything ever. He's barely existed. So to the point that it became a joke. So when he finally, when he finally walks out there, we have all this built-in, like, negative hype, I guess.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, what the fuck's he gonna do? But it was interesting to watch him. Just even in watching him walk out, the presence he carried himself with. It wasn't. I was impressed by that. Just him walking to the ring, like he had that kind of confidence. It kind of reminded me of that confidence that Taz has when he would walk to the ring, and
even though completely different, somehow.
Right? Yeah. No, it was still his own unique thing, though. Too. I mean, that more MMA style look that he had walking to the ring with the trunks and the style he did it. I was actually really impressed with it. I thought he did a great job. As far as being in the ring, directing everything, making everything flow. It was a 3-minute squash match, but still, I mean, I thought it was done really, really well. And to where I was going, because I was kind of like you, I was like, okay, what the fuck is he going to do? And then I came leaving the match going, that was impressive. Because I did watch SmackDown last week and I'm going, that was actually better than a lot of the matches that SmackDown had, and they did it in 3 minutes. That was the crazy part, is it was a 3-minute match that was impressive than some of the longer matches that happened on SmackDown, an hour or two before. So,
yes. So my point in bringing all that up and sidetracking into a Hook conversation was really more just to say that, like, if AEW can bring up their sagging parts of their presentation up to those levels, not even all the time, but just more of the time, like get rid, like, and they have, like, if you've been watching from the beginning, you've seen they've clipped out a lot of I'm seeing Sonic's comment. They've clipped out a lot of the really bad stuff that they were doing at the beginning of their life, and they're making the adjustments needed. I say that all the time. Like, don't look at what they are now. Look at what they were. Look at what they changed. Look where they're going. And then by contrast, now you come to the WWE. Look at what they're doing. Look how they're regressing. Look how they're doing things that they always used to do right. They're now doing it wrong and badly. And they seem like they're completely lost at this. If you told me that they swapped out everybody that they ever had working for them as a crew and replaced them all with people who it's their first day on the job, I would believe you. Because I don't see anybody doing anything other than, of course, the technical production side is always good. Like that part is always good. But everything else is just abysmal. And we're going to talk all about why. But I think that just as for your question of, like, what do I think about the AEW and SmackDown kind of pairing on Friday nights, I don't know if it's not really, I don't think, as worth as reading into as much as people like to. But when you make a living in the wrestling media, or if you're just a fan that likes to constantly get on social media and talk about wrestling, like, what else can you talk about, really? Because not a lot of great stuff is going on anyway. So you're really trying to make mountains out of molehills here.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with this push for this day one, pay-per-view, it feels all the lackluster in a lot of this stuff. You know, they're trying to make this giant push now. Oh, day one pay per view, which kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it to begin with, and then still, it's like they've forgotten how to promote this pay per view because there's been nothing to make me go, well, I definitely want to watch this now. You know, I mean,
well, and you know what? Part of that is because they not only did it come out of nowhere, but they set up matches for it almost immediately, knowing that they'd have to have a month to promote it. So now it's like, okay, we immediately got where we were going. It's like you teleported to your destination, and now you're like, you got to just wait. You got to wait for the rest of the crew to catch up, or you're just treading water. Like, what do I do for a month? I guess we'll just keep adding people to the WWE Championship match because we established that like as soon as we established the pay-per-view. So now we just got to keep putting people in it until it's like an 8-way for the, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's bad. They're bad at building now.
Yeah. And which is sad. But homeboy, you can see AEW. They have Elevation and Dark on Mondays and Tuesdays. They're like 2-hour shows there. And then you can also, they do a pretty good job of putting good long highlights of their shows, about 5 or 6 highlights of their shows of the matches, not some of the bullshit in between, but more of the matches on there. So if you want to catch up that way, it's a good way to do that. And shout out to Sonic the Hedgehog. I know you said, Jamie is still sick, man. That brother is just tore up with the sickness. It's not the corona, it's some other thing. So it's
because he watched SmackDown last week, and I told him, and we talked about it.
That's that's probably so.
It laid him up.
I'm gonna get the SmackDown flu probably next. So
I'll take it a little easier on you though. So
well, I appreciate it. You know, especially with Christmas coming, and I've got family. And anyway, all right. So I guess we want to get started with this.
If we have to,
because I can't think of anything else to bullshit on until we get there. So you know, I gotta be honest with you. The start of this show just already pissed me off.
Because it's a 3-minute recap?
Yes.
Because it's a full 180 seconds of recap?
Yeah, it was just recap, and then Paul Heyman standing there waiting for Roman Reigns, and then it's just like, okay, what the hell? Like, all right. And then the next thing you know, oh, wait, now we're in the ring, and we have Sasha Banks and Toni Storm versus Shotzi and Charlotte Flair, which I forgot about Shotzi being a bad guy. You know, I mean, because I can't remember the last time I've seen her on TV. You know, and it's like
been a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
the suspicious 2 weeks, and then later on we'd see Ridge Holland, who also has been a little bit absent lately. Yeah, Wonder what's going on.
I don't know, man. So I don't know. And then Toni Storm's already in the ring. She's getting.
She's a jobber. She's a jobber now.
Straight up jobber. She's getting such. I mean, don't. Hey, advice for anybody who's in the chats right now: don't get engaged to Juice Robinson. That's all I'm saying. You know, you're gonna get fucked more ways than one if you get engaged by Juice Robinson. God, I mean, they have. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, Toni Storm is easily probably one of the best female wrestlers on the roster. Let's take female off of it. You know, she's probably one of the best wrestlers on the roster, and yet they are treating her like dog shit. Like utter dog shit. I don't understand it, Vet. I mean, but then again, I'm a fan. I'm sitting in this. You've done this kind of stuff before. What could be any logical explanation for it?
Well, there's got to be some kind of heat somewhere. I really don't know what it could be. We joked about the Juice Robinson thing in the past. You know, that it might, for all I know, that might not be far off. But it's usually one of those kind of things where somebody has a personal issue and they're able to, you know, work that in to where it affects somebody's, you know, TV time. Mm-hmm. And it's weird that happens because you'd think like as a business, you want to set as many personal issues aside as you can in order for everybody to make the most money that they can.
Right.
But yeah. Sonic says, "Damn it, he just gave me a ring. Is everything a lie?" Yeah.
Just about.
So that's usually the case there. Toni Storm, I don't know her personally. She seems like a very sweet person. Yeah. I've never seen anything to suggest otherwise. And everything that she's ever been given, she's done, you know, uh, phenomenally well, considering. I mean, this is almost a literal child. Like
Yeah.
she's so young too to be as good as she is. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
like one of the things that you kind of forget. But this though. This is not one of those times. This is the first time I've seen Toni Storm where it's like somehow you have managed to bring her skill level down to the to a, like a previously unthought low.
Right.
I've never seen women with like 4 women that had this much to offer do this badly as this match was terrible.
It was awful.
Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was AEW Dark Nightmare Factory students level.
Wow.
I am not kidding. I have no idea why. There's no excuse. Like you can say what you want about Shotzi, right? Like, and people have, and people will. Yeah. And she's definitely the weak link of this, foursome here in terms of like just what she's able to do inside the ropes. But you can't put this on her. You got Sasha, Charlotte, and Toni in there, and you take you take any one of them out of it, and it still should be better than this. Like there's no excuse for this. The only thing I can think of is that they must have just right before they went live, they must have just pushed these 4 girls out through the curtain and not told them nothing.
Right.
Like.
Yeah.
No pre-planning. No, like they're getting probably spots called to them by the ref in the IFB in the ring at the time. Like I can't imagine because they were doing stuff in there that you never see people do, no matter how bad they are. Like I've never seen people just like that they're like locked up and doing nothing, or they look like they're waiting for somebody to tell them something, or like a lot of pausing, a lot of hesitating.
Right.
The timing's off on everything. The layout of the match made no sense. So that whoever was if there was a producer for this, they're at fault for this because none of it made every sense, and everybody stunk in this match. Like everybody was just rotten, so uncharacteristically rotten. By comparison to the other 3, as like compared to her past self too, like Shotzi Blackheart wasn't even necessarily the low point of this.
Right.
She got caught up in it. So it looked like everybody was in a fucking mud wrestling match like that.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to climb out of it.
Yeah.
It just was so bad, and I don't know why. Also, during Charlotte's entrance, we got another recap. So just in case you didn't know what was going on, but yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. This was one of the worst matches I've ever seen on WWE television.
Yeah. It was so bad. Like I liked what you said. It looked like they were in mud because it just there was one time Charlotte gave Toni an overhead suplex of some sort, and like Toni lands by the rope, and Charlotte just stands up, and it's almost like she's waiting to be told what's the next thing because she like stands up and poses. Like I know she's trying to be that like heel, but it was a longer pose than I felt was necessary. And it's like, okay, is she waiting to find out what's happening? Is she something else? But like, I kind of was wondering, okay, what's the next thing? And it felt so disjointed and out of place. And I don't know, like I was going, man, I've seen better independent matches, like, out there that, on shows I've gone to than this. It just was not. I don't know.
That's why I wondered, because an independent match, you have all day to plan your match step by step. So that's what makes me think, like, with these ladies, did they really just not have time to put anything together?
Could they have maybe changed their order in the match? Could they have maybe like thought they were going to go on later, and then they decided, oh shit, we're not ready yet, so you guys go ahead and go out there, and they hadn't quite worked on what they were going to do? Because I mean, also too, again, the idea of, oh, let's bring in Shotzi again because we haven't seen her, and all of a sudden now it's like, okay, well, oh yeah, you and Sasha are fighting, and Toni, you and Charlotte are fighting, so let's throw them all out there together, And I mean, it literally felt like that almost, like, we're gonna just throw you guys together.
Yeah, that's what it is. A lot of times in modern wrestling now, I've been obviously stepped away from it for a long time, so I don't really know, but the way I understand it is, you kind of get to the building and you might have an idea of what you're doing, so you got some time to put stuff together. But if you've got a producer assigned to your match, they're going to help you lay out the match to a certain degree. It depends on who the person is. Like, I don't think that a guy, like Seth Rollins probably needs a lot of help. But maybe in their eyes, just because of her, they don't care what Toni Storm's done before she got there. So maybe they think she needs a lot of help. They know Shotzi needs some help.
Yeah.
They might trust Charlotte and Sasha to be the generals and stuff like that on their sides of it. But at the same time, we've seen Charlotte completely break down lately. Like, so unprofessional. The Nia Jax thing just really just kind of checked out. Like, she really doesn't want to be there half the time. So, and Sasha's been, I don't know if Sasha's the person that can, as good as she is, I don't know if she can be the engine that makes the thing run in a situation like that. So I can only speak for, like, the way I was trained would be specifically to handle a situation like this. Like, the training I received was such that I could be put in a situation like this where it's like, I've never met the three of you people. I don't have time to talk about you. I just need to know what the finish is. And I can go there and stand in one of the corners with these three other people in a tag match, and I can direct the entire match. I'll just make one up on the spot. Like, that's how I was trained to do it, so that if I did have time to plan out a match, everything would be much easier, because then also if something breaks down, like they cut your time, somebody forgets a spot, all these other things, I can improvise because I don't need a pre-planned match. I can just improvise and call the match on the fly with two, with another person, with three other people, with five other people in a 6-man tag. Like, that stuff is remarkably easy if you know exactly what you're doing. Right. And you just realize, like, if you're in a situation where you got your time cut and you're not even important enough that you get an entrance on TV, that kind of situation, you no longer have the pressure to say, I better make this a WrestleMania moment on a random Friday Night SmackDown. You just dumb it down, keep it simple, but do it well. That's what you have to do. And I don't believe that any of these women ever received the kind of training that they'd be able to do that. I'm sure they're very used to having a lot of stuff pre-planned. And the WWE, you have to, because the producers got to figure out what spots you're going to do. Then they got to go to the truck and they got to tell the guys to get their cameras ready. Hey, switch to this camera. They're about to do this dive. They're about to go do this in this corner. And you see that, like, literally there's a spot where, Sasha tags Tony in or vice versa or whatever. They get in there to go, whip, I don't remember which of the other. It might have been Shotzi, but let's just say for the sake of argument, it was Shotzi. They go to, like, do a double shoot off. They start pushing her to one corner, and then they switch it and just move her to another corner and shoot her a different way. Like, oh, not that camera, this camera. Like, that kind of completely exposing the business phony, right? And it's like that. So that factors into it too when you have stuff planned out and memorized. All around, I don't know what happened here. I just know it was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to get yelled at for it, no matter whose fault it was.
I was going to say, the question becomes who gets the blame for something like this? Like that it's on TV and everything. Is that going to be an agent's issue? Is that going to be the wrestler's issue? Like, who gets the end of the day?
It's going to be the producer.
It was to be the producer? It's
going to be the producer first. And it's going to be harder for that shit to roll downhill to the talent. The talent is, even as much as we see them buried and minimalized and marginalized and stuff all the time, they're still at the hierarchy. Like, in the hierarchy, they're higher up, and then below them are, like, producers, agents, referees, the technical crew and stuff like that. But, like, the talent's still up here. So, it's harder for this stuff to come off them unless they specifically did something wrong. Like, they went out of, if 4 people have a shitty match, that's on the agent. Right. If somebody gets a live mic and says something they're not supposed to, well, that's obviously not on an agent or anything.
Right.
So
Yeah. Okay. All right. So so we have the winner, which, by the way, this one with a stunning roll up, for the pinfall win. Yeah, it was a stunning roll up. The
at least it had a back bridge in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Oh, well. So that was that. And then we go into this next segment where Xavier Woods is backstage on his throne with a group around him chanting his name. I did see that new crown that they got last week. Oh my lord! Talk about something that looks like from Sonic the Hedgehog, or some kind of video game along those lines.
Somebody needs to throw Xavier Woods on a spike for this.
And then the Usos appear, make fun of him, but Woods says that he and Kofi can beat them for their tag titles, and they'll beat them twice, tonight and at day one. So we're getting a match with them.
Of course we are.
Because, what else are we going to do but ruin the pay-per-view match by having a match tonight? I mean, so Vet, I don't know. I guess I'm growing up and remembering things different, but like when you were going to have a title match with someone, I don't remember you having matches with them beforehand the pay-per-view to have a match with a person. I don't remember that. Am I misremembering things when I was growing up? Like that the idea was you build with other people to get to this match where you're wrestling the person with the title, but you guys have never really touched until that moment. Am I misremembering seeing things like that, or is this common where we see guys wrestle each other for titles 2 weeks before they're going to wrestle for titles?
No, it's always it's existed in some forms in the past, but no, this is just emblematic of today's the way they book stuff today. Because they don't have like come on, they're not going to be able to come up with a compelling, interesting, and original way for people to get into a match, especially with these guys. Maybe they figure, well, we've already seen the New Day and the Usos 600 times, so seeing it 602 or 3 more times doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Sure.
You either like it and you're going to keep watching it, or you don't and you don't care. But I think I really started noticing it a lot around the mid 2000s on SmackDown specifically, because it would be like a thing where you were going to have some title match at the pay-per-view, and in order to get to that pay-per-view, you just had to wrestle each other 3 times, each week leading up to the pay-per-view.
Gotcha.
And that's when I really started noticing it I would say in the 06, 07 SmackDown era is like when I saw it the most.
Gotcha.
And I don't know why they started doing it then, because right when they started doing it, I'm like, well, why would... And that's when you're talking about pay-per-view, like
right.
$50 to your
right.
cable or satellite provider, and you're going to pay to see something you've seen 3 times, like recently 3 times.
Right.
Yeah, not really the best strategy. And now I guess they're just like, fuck it, everything's on streaming, so... we'll just do whatever we want. Everything that you see on this show, John, you can tell, whether it's this show, Raw, or whatever, even NXT to a degree, you can tell they are trying to fill time because they've got nothing. That's why there's so many recaps. Yeah. That's why they tried to artificially pad out the thing. We don't need to talk anymore about this Xavier Woods thing, right? This sucked. This sucked almost as bad as the match, even though it was much shorter. The match we just saw, but let me break this down. This next segment, okay, from beginning to end, okay.
Okay.
Viking Raiders entrance. Go to break. Xia Li recap. Natalya interview. Did you like how they were trying to say after Xia Li protected Naomi that way? They must have said the word protect like 6 or 7 times in this. And like, we get it. Okay. We get it. You don't have to do that. We get it. But anyways, yeah. So let's recap the recap I just recapped. Viking Raiders entrance, break. Xia Li recap after break. Natalya interview. Announcers on camera. Raw rebound. Jinder and Shanky entrance. Go to break. Have you ever seen anything that ridiculous in your life?
No.
You want to talk about world records for like Natalya having most matches? Let's have a world record for most things that had nothing to do with anything back to back to back to back on a television show, man.
I literally had no clue where they were going. I know the Viking Raiders are in the ring, and I'm like going...
Did you forget they had opponents before they actually came out?
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, shit. Oh, that's right. They were... Like, I literally did forget that the Viking Raiders were in the ring and that they were wrestling Jinder and them. I was like, oh, Jinder and Shanky. I was like... Oh,
they must have just been out there to do the T-shirt cannon or something. There's no way they had a match because
the 2 guys who probably would never wear T-shirts, but still, I literally forgot because, what again, that this. I mean, surely Kevin Dunn is not this bad. I mean, we know that we've seen the production aspects of it before. How does it get like this, Vet? I mean, really, this is something that was so mind blowing and just so bad. Like, who gets the blame for this? There's somebody's got to get blamed for the programming of this night because it was awful. Like, this was probably the dumbest segments back to back that I think I've ever seen in my life on WWE programming. You know?
Yeah, this is the craziest thing. Like in the end, like if you're watching it, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but it is bizarre to people like us who are so like really into the, you know, so much further into the business kind of aspect of it, where we look at things like that. And we've seen it get worse and worse and worse. And this is like a new like nadir of like how bad can you do this weird formatting. So whoever comes up with the format, you know, it's their fault. I don't know that anybody could really with a straight face do this. Like this had to have been like a rib just to see if it would get done. But you know, if Vince is ripping up scripts until like their time to go on, then if he's the one that's writing the replacement scripts, then it's on him. I don't really think he's doing that. The other thing about it is something like this is kind of complicated because you got to transition from so many different things to other things. So it's not something you could do accidentally. Right. It's much easier to just have a simple one team enters, another team enters, and then you have a match. And then you go to break when the match is over or in the middle of the match, whatever you'd want to do. To keep going from backstage thing to, you know, this to that, like that's way more work than you need on top of it making no sense. Right. So it's very technically production heavy, and that's why you got to look at like, why isn't Kevin Dunn questioning this? Why wouldn't he be like, why am I doing this? You know, like, so, and maybe he did, but maybe it didn't matter. Maybe they just said, just do it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's where me as a production guy, you know, I was looking at this going, this makes, I wasn't necessarily looking from the business aspect of wrestling. I'm just thinking, you know, because my degree's in broadcasting. So I'm looking at it from a broadcasting standpoint going, I don't know where they're going right now. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And we've got commercial breaks, people in the ring, but then, you know, this, that, and the other. I don't know what the dealio is now. Like, why not have that production before you do the people in the ring? You know, wouldn't that make a lot more sense? Or have the ring introductions, do the match, then have the stuff after. It was almost like someone just forgot. You know, oh man, my bad. We were supposed to do the Xia Li and Natalya thing before the Viking Raiders. Shit. Well, let's just do the Viking Raiders and we'll just hold them off. You know, and I mean, it's live. So does that mean the Viking Raiders were in the ring the entire time, just waiting? Yep.
They let the Viking Raiders go out there and drown in Chicago, of all places. God. And to their credit, they didn't really turn on the match when it finally happened. They seemed to be relatively into it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that was a bad gamble because the Viking Raiders aren't particularly that over. Maybe it's because they're the Viking Raiders that Chicago didn't shit on it because they might have liked those guys as War Machine and just remembered them from those times. Like, so like we know these guys, we're not going to disrespect them. Right. They could give a shit less about Jinder Mahal and Shanky. Yeah. I know that. I know Chicago doesn't give a shit about them, but they probably out of respect, you know, just didn't bury the Vikings for having to sit there. And what were they doing? Were they like pounding their chest the entire like 5-6 minutes or however long this took? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But
I mean, to me, they're always Hanson and Rowe. They're always going to be War Machine. The Viking Raiders thing is just whatever. But I mean, I also understand that Eric and Hanson and Rowe are both big into that, like especially Eric. He's big into that, you know, culture. Him and his wife Sarah, they're just huge into that culture because I mean they dress and do the cosplay of all that kind of stuff all the time. So I can understand that aspect.
Cosplay, John, or just their clothes.
Well, yeah, no, I mean
they're not playing. This is real.
They are pretty real about that aspect of it. From everything I've seen on their Instagrams and stuff. But like, I don't know, like. And then you come down to the match.
Very Viking to have Instagram too, right? Like that's so Viking, right?
It's so Viking to show off my axes, my bearded axes, and you know, all that. I don't know. But I mean, then we come down to the match once we finally get to this match, and um, you know, like to me, it felt again like I felt like there was more here that could have been, and then all of a sudden, it just didn't. I don't know. I had a hard time with this match trying to describe it because I felt like there should have been more here, but the Viking Raiders got the win, which I'm always good for because to me they are a more legitimate tag team of the two. I know that they tried to do something with Shanky, of course, when they had Hit Row, and then they totally shit that out of the way because then all of a sudden, bye bye Hit Row, and Shanky made a star out of himself from that. And then now we
let's not get too carried away.
Well, he was. I wouldn't say a star, but I was more interested in him from that point forward. But then that once again, they sat for a couple of weeks now that Hit Row's gone, and it's like back to like I almost felt like Jinder and Shanky were the jobbers in this aspect, which was hard to say because Jinder Mahal is a former, Universal Champion and WWE Champion, and so
that's their fault for doing that.
Yeah, that's their fault. But I mean, I get it. And then of course, and then losing to Triple H in India.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, right? Triple H really is more over in India. I mean, think about it.
Right, of course. Just like you can't win in your hometown, according to WWE. Which, by the way, I thought that's maybe why Fuego would have done a little better with Hook because they were doing it here. No, that wasn't here. That was last week because they're here in Texas this week and Garland. So anyway, brain fart. But I don't know. Like this match didn't have the typical like Viking Raider fire that I expected from it. I feel like they're going through the motions. I don't know if that's what you're seeing with this, Vet, but like I just don't feel like they have that same War Machine fire that they've had, before.
You could say that, but I could kind of answer that for you. Who the hell are they going to work with in a match that they're going to have that with?
Sure.
Because these guys suck. Like, Jinder Mahal is awful. I'm sorry. I don't care how many people on this, in this network want to put him over, whatever. He's terrible. And Shanky is like basically brand new. You know what I mean? And what can the Viking Raiders really do to work with that? They're not going to be fired up to be in the ring with these couple of guys, one really inexperienced and one so experienced, and yet might as well not be. He might as well just be another Shanky. So I don't know. That probably has something to do with it. Like you need a real good tag team to kind of get the if the Viking Raiders could get a match with the Usos, or the Viking Raiders could get a match with the New Day, and I'm sure they have in the past, but you know what I mean? Like to where it was really promoted, like we should be interested to see it.
Right.
And they're more interested in, making jokes about the Viking Raiders and they're outcasts from society and they have turkey legs. That's more entertaining to the people that are in charge,
right?
To have them do that than to have good matches. So that's probably going to explain why you're not seeing what you want to out of the Viking Raiders. What can you really do? You got to keep it simple with these guys, and they did. And the match was definitely not as bad as the first match.
Right.
So, we got nowhere to go but up from that. And the only other thing that people could consider, like, a questionable decision is beating Shanky here, because he seems like a prospect you would want to kind of protect since he's a giant. Mm-hmm. But I'd be okay with that if they could turn that into something. Right. If they can turn it into something where Shanky's not experienced and he loses in these matches, and Jinder is trying to get him to the point where, like not the typical boring, like, berate the guy, berate your partner for losing until he turns on you type thing.
Right.
But instead to just be like an actual mentor, but do it from the heel standpoint.
Right.
Like we are going to dominate, but before we do, you have to learn, blah, blah, blah. And you could do like a little something that way, I guess. They're not going to do it. They won't care to do it. They won't even have thought of that. But yeah, other than that, it just seems weird that they beat the giant guy. The other thing I would say about Shanky is I think he needs it's too late now, but I would have had him wear a mask
Mm.
of some kind, like a cool looking decorative mask or something. Not just a plain one, but something that where he can have his hair out and, you know, it would look different and stuff, because this kid looks like a giant baby, basically. Like his face is so unthreatening. It's so
Right.
like he can grow facial hair on it, but he just looks like a child. He looks like a child that mutated. So like you're not going to get like a serious adult vibe from him, like he's going to kick somebody's ass, despite how tall and how long his arms are and stuff like that. So I would have done as much as I could to like, you know, cover that aspect of him and make him more mysterious. Now you got a
Right.
mysterious giant, you know, that,
Yeah.
but I think the train has sailed on that one.
Right. And I mean, and the question becomes, and Elizabeth says, hey, at least Shanky made it to TV. The other guy is still coming soon on Raw.
Yeah. Veer's been coming
Veer.
soon for about 8 weeks now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that if he's ever going to debut.
Right.
I thought Xia Li was going to be that way too. And then she debuted and now she's not here.
Right. Yeah. She debuted last
Immediately
week.
not here.
Immediately gone. And again, she was another one. And I did last week. I don't know, because I've been ranting about how Drew McIntyre comes to the ring with a sword and he doesn't need it. And they finally did that last week where it was like, no, you can't bring your sword to the ring. I did like that bit where he threw the sword into the desk and was like, yeah, we're going to do that. But again, Xia Li coming to the ring with weapons. Why are you going to do that? Like, it's not like you're going to be able to use them. Why do you need them? Why do you? I don't know.
Like it would make sense the way she used to do it, where just for a cold match, she comes to the ring, does a weapon demonstration, then you can set the weapons down and have your match. But in this instance, she was doing a run-in to save somebody, and then you do your demonstration
and then drop the weapons. You know, yeah. I mean, like
with lightning.
Yeah.
Lightning.
Wait, there's lightning. My bad. She's supernatural apparently as well. You know. You know, but. You know, here's my question, Vet. Do we take these, you know, SmackDown and Raw tag titles, unite them, and just have one, you know, tag team group that kind of rotates about between the two shows? Is the problem that we don't have enough tag teams between the two shows to really have two brands tag titles? You know?
Well, this is where. This is where, you know, a Lucha House Party sure would have came in handy for things like this. Like where if you want to get a team over real quick in a short match, you got experienced guys who know how to do it. Unfortunately, they've been released. So I think they even have enough tag teams on the brand, but they just have to, or you could even put some together, but you just have too many guys standing around. What are the guys doing standing around thinking about kissing Xavier Woods' fingers?
Right.
Like, what are all those guys doing? Why can't they be in something? Why can't they be a tag team? I don't care if you put Ricochet and Drew Gulak together. Doesn't matter. Just anything. They have enough people to make the tag teams. But I don't believe that there should be different sets of champions anyways. I just think there should be one champion. And if they give, just like if you know, you get the promotion, and with the promotion comes more responsibility. If you get a championship, if they say, here, you are going to be this champion, now it's like, oh, guess what? You're working an extra day this week.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so any champion should be bound to both shows as like a passport. And then when you don't have the title, you stay on whatever show you were drafted on.
Right.
That seems like a very simple and obvious fix to me, and it's something that they haven't been able to figure out for, what is it now, almost 20 years
Yeah.
that they've been splitting these up. So what do I know? But I feel like, you know, the way Brock Lesnar was the undisputed champion, and he, you know, like, and then he decided like, hey, I only want to be on this show, you know, in storyline.
Right.
He didn't decide shit, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he was saying, I'm going to be exclusive to this one. So Eric Bischoff had to bring out the suitcase belt and give it to Triple H or whatever, right? That's when this whole shit started. But before that, the undisputed champion had to bounce back and forth. And I really kind of feel like that. At the most, you could say like a United States or an Intercontinental champion can sort of be like the world champion of your television show.
Right.
And then whatever. But yeah, there's too many belts altogether. And so but even if you have all these belts, you still have plenty of people on your roster to do something with them, and they're just not using people.
Yeah, yeah. And is that because of poor management of your personnel? Is that poor writing? I mean, what do you think is the biggest factor of that? Where we're not seeing guys like Drew Gulak, we're not seeing guys that are on these rosters that are just sitting around doing nothing. Is that a Vince thing? Is that a whoever's running talent relations, or is that the writing? I guess is the question.
It's purely speculation. I don't have any inside knowledge on it. All I can say is that it's probably some of all of that for different people. Like there may be these people are over here off the show because they got heat. These people over here because Vince McMahon doesn't see anything in them, but he's stuck with them. These people because they, they get forgotten or their time gets cut or whatever. Like it's probably a little bit of everything. I don't think if they haven't been able to just nail down their formatting of television, I'm sure they haven't compartmentalized who they hate and why.
Right.
It's just, but it is unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. So, all right, so we have the Viking Raiders win by a pinfall when Ivar goes for the top for a splash and the pinfall. So, bet you're going to take that splash from Ivar? If you're
absolutely.
No, honestly, I would. I
never taken it, brother, and I wouldn't stay down for it if I did.
So then we have another replay of the Drew McIntyre stabbing the desk, and then Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss have the desk, and they are going to the ring. Go to a commercial break, and then Paul Heyman is still outside waiting for the Black SUV to pull up. And then out steps Brock Lesnar. And he says he was expecting someone else. And Brock asks if it was Roman. Heyman didn't speak, so Brock wishes him good luck and walks off. I did not get to see your thoughts on this, but I have been loving Brock Lesnar on his return without Paul Heyman. Like last week's segment with him in the ring with Sami Zayn, and they're like, yeah, we're Canadian brothers. Like, hey, let's go hunt moose. And well, I'm a vegan. Oh, come on. And then Paul Heyman goads him into just beating the shit out of everybody in the ring. Like, what am I watching here? But everything Brock has done to this point, I'm actually very intrigued in the character that he's portraying, and really enjoying the mind games that he's just pulling on all this kind of stuff. I didn't get to hear your guys' opinion on that last week. So, how have you taken it?
Yeah, I think I said to James that when you see Brock doing this stuff like this, you can tell that's like Paul Heyman's just an accessory. It's not that he's needed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he makes everything better, but it's not because Brock can't do this, because he obviously can do this.
Right.
And I guess they finally figured out that if you're going to pull up dump trucks full of money to this guy, you might as well get the money's worth out of him and have him do stuff.
Right.
So I like that aspect of it, and of course he's able to pull it off.
Yeah,
because he's a professional.
I guess the question becomes he's not been given this opportunity before that I can remember without Paul Heyman. And so it's. Do you think it was a gamble, or you think they've always known that this was who he was and that he could pull it off, or it's the. For me, I was going, okay, I'm going to see how they're doing without Paul Heyman, and I was impressed, because I've never really seen him without Paul Heyman, and like you said, it makes it where Paul Heyman's that much better of an accessory. But damn, if he hasn't pulled it off, that I was not expecting.
I think we've seen this in the past. It's been so long since we have that we forgot. If you remember maybe some of the Zach Gowen stuff or the Eddie Guerrero stuff, Brock Lesnar has it in him.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly that he probably doesn't feel like doing it. Like he doesn't feel like he should be putting out an effort, and they'll just do whatever he says.
Right.
Maybe now they're handing him stuff, and instead of ripping it up, he's like, well, whatever, I'll just do it. Right. I don't know. Maybe something could have changed for him. But I'm sure they would have wanted to have Brock Lesnar doing cartoon foolishness this entire time. They probably would have made him a member of the New Day if they could have. They just, because that's just funny to them and that entertains them. So, yeah, I think they always knew he could do it. And I think he just probably put the kibosh on it every time they came up with something stupid. And maybe, he finally got to a point where either he saw something he liked or someone came up with something that he liked that they weren't coming up with before, right? So if Paul Heyman's working on all his stuff, he's going to like that a lot better, isn't he?
True.
Than some nobody. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I don't know. But that's what I think. I do want to just really quickly, don't forget now, we got the recap of Drew stabbing that desk like we talked about. We had to get a recap of that. And we also show that Corbin still has it, so he shipped it to this next town, I guess.
Apparently.
Yeah, he's rich, so it's obviously easy to make happen, but
right.
But he and Moss made sure that it arrived here in Chicago too. I just want to bring that up. I also want to touch on something that Sonic had mentioned here. He says, in the past, I've said New Day don't act black and Hit Row do. Hit Row are fired. Maybe that is New Day's point. Maybe, but I also think in the past we've seen New Day act black enough and at least crazy enough that nobody was writing their stuff for them because nobody could have. Right? I think the issue with Hit Row is strictly, I'm just, I'll use vague language and just say that it's probably has something to do with our current situation. And that's all and anybody that was released around that time where you're just like, I don't understand why they would release these people. It makes no sense. Maybe it's just that simple. But yeah, so that's what I'll say about that, because it's not like Vince McMahon didn't see what Hit Row was doing. I mean, they got pulled up almost instantly after the whole NXT 2.0 thing happened. So if NXT 2.0 happened when Bruce and Vince and Johnny went down and Kevin and they all went down and looked at NXT, and then all of a sudden Hit Row gets pulled up immediately, that means that they must have liked something. But then maybe they didn't like personal politics after that. So bye-bye. Just to make it easier, because we're traveling now, so we can't have this headache every single place we go.
Right. It could have, because if I remember correctly, that's how New Day started, was they were more militant, like, hey, no, we're not, like Xavier Woods brought them together to say, hey, we're not fighting, we need to be together, and that was the whole purpose, kind of a new take on the Nation of Domination kind of idea, in a way. But then they've gone to this new persona.
Well, if you remember too, like the unicorns and the dancing and the rainbows and like all this stuff, that was to get heat originally.
Right.
Like, look at these motherfucking nerds. Boo. Like, what's wrong with you? Aren't you grown men? Boo. Yeah. What is this My Little Pony bullshit? Yeah. Boo.
Bring a trombone to the ring. What the fuck?
Yep. Boo. And then, just like a lot of people that do it so well, from The Rock back to Muhammad Ali, like, they'll tell you they're the greatest until you believe it, and then pretty soon you just get on board and it becomes a thing. So the New Day was never going to get booed again at a certain point. They just were too entertaining being heels, but they originally were booed, and they originally did do all that stuff. The same thing that people like now was originally a heat magnet, and it's just been 6-7 years, so we've forgotten all about it. But I'm surprised that they've, kept with it all this time. And I still find it weird whenever, they and Big E are separated. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, no. So we have this segment with Happy Corbin and this is something that has been on the TV and has just gotten worse every time. I mean,
it was bad to start.
It was bad to start.
Let's not act like it was ever good.
It was never good. And then it's just gotten worse every time between the outfits and, dude, Moss telling the shittiest jokes ever, and then the over laughing and just
they think is heat. Again, in their mind, they're like, the way we feel about it, that's how we're supposed to feel. Like, they're being heels, they're making us hate them and stuff. It doesn't really work that way, though. Like, not to this degree. I've come up with a new name for this duo. James, would you like to hear it?
Yes, please give me the.
And feel free to continue using it, whether I'm ever on
Okay.
the show again or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you call me James, so we will determine that.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking to James because he's not here.
Oh,
but this
okay.
is for you. This is for you too, John.
Okay.
Did you buy it? No. Okay.
No bullshit.
So how about the Great Depression?
Yes.
Because that is the era of which their comedy comes from, their names come from, their gimmick comes from, everything. And that's how we all feel as the audience in relation to watching it. This is the Great Depression.
Yeah, as Sir Jam says, it's go away heat. We want them to go away. I
wish Brock would stand threateningly close to Vince McMahon until he agreed to never let this back on television again. That's not Adam Pearce. Don't waste your time with him. Yeah. Threaten the big man. It's like, we don't want to see these guys no more.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and then of course we get this whole thing of they're trying to pull the sword out, and Drew comes out and is like, "Hey, are you having performance issues?" And then he beats them up and then removes the sword with ease. And I don't know. Like, this was just the dumbest thing ever. Like, I'm going, really? Like, really? This is what we're doing right now? We're doing a shitty sword in the stone moment, and why? Why are we? Okay, obviously we're needing to fill time again. We're filling time, and we're not doing it with wrestling. We're doing it with bullshit segments like this. Yep. I mean,
you got Ricochet standing around the back, and we got to watch them do this thing with the sword in the desk.
Well, Ricochet's in the back. This is why his finger's up his butt, because he has nothing else to do. So. Anyway, I just
and Elizabeth put that over too, the sword and the stone thing on social media on Twitter. She definitely called it out, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Like, it's becoming to a point where, like, this is the one thing I do appreciate about, like, Rampage or Dynamite, is at least the segments like this are kept to a minimum. I'm getting more wrestling, which is, I mean, you and I are both New Japan fans. We don't have this bullshit in New Japan a lot, and when we do, it's fucking Yano or fucking Evil doing some bullshit.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's all in the match.
Well, it's still never this bad, but
it's never this bad. But, like, still, it's at least even in the match, but it's never this bad. But I can appreciate Rampage for those things of, like, at least I'm getting wrestling to watch, and I'm not doing that. Some people are like, well, you're watching Young Lions and stuff. I was like, I'm watching wrestling. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
The Young Lions put on better shit than half the stuff that these guys on the main roster do. So
of course. And the thing is too, right, John, is that we watch this stuff and we watch wrestling, but we both have seen enough wrestling in our lives. We don't need to see more wrestling, but we, if you can't come up with anything better than a wrestling match, then default to it.
Yeah.
Don't go out of your way, because this setup takes effort. It takes effort to be this bad. You had to bring the whole Happy Talk. What the fuck kind of name is that anyway? That's not Happy Talk. Isn't even a play on words or a phrase. It's not. It's nothing. But they just say it. So that's bullshit. And then it's getting hot.
Yeah.
It's the heat's not escaping from his head because he's got the Santa hat on, so it's getting even hotter.
About to come out my mouth.
Yeah, so, like, if you don't know what else to do, rather than waste everybody's time with this kind of shit, then just throw a match out there real quick, a short one for one of these guys or both of them, tag team match, whatever. Get some local guys, have them do this in 3 minutes, beat these two guys, make fun of Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre comes out, blah, 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 and you get your same thing. You don't have to do all of this effort to go nowhere. But yeah, like, we don't need, it's not that we need to see 20-minute wrestling matches. We don't. We've seen enough matches. We're gonna see more matches.
Right.
But you've got so many ways that you could fill the time. Hey, instead of recap, how about a new vignette or something for somebody that's not there? Like, if Xia Li's not gonna be there, have a little something extra from her. You know what I mean? Like, there's and we know. I know. Someone's reaction to that might be, well, that those things don't just happen. It takes a long time to produce these certain, these edit these videos and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I know, but you're going to do that anyway. You're constantly making content for the network,
Right.
and you're constantly making content for other things, the website, whatever. You've got stuff, you got people working on stuff. Let them contribute a little something to the show if you need something filled in. What's the difference if you see it again later? Like if you put a little extra video package together on somebody and put it out there just to keep them fresh in our memory because they're not going to be there. You do that, and then if you see that same video package down the line on the best of Xia Li collection in 2025 or whatever, then it's okay. You've seen it before because it was important where we had it. Here's another question. Bailey ain't doing nothing. How come we can't get anything from Bailey by remote? Like, can she send us something? Can she send us a selfie promo? Can she, like, why does they have to be gone completely erased? You know what I mean? Like Thanos snapped on them or something.
Yeah,
can we just utilize the people that you have if you need time filled?
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't make sense at all because then you go from this segment to a backstage segment with Sami Zayn interrupting Sonya Deville, and he wants to wish them a Merry Christmas, but he believes in the spirit of Christmas. He complains about Brock interfering with him, and he says he should have another opportunity. And then Pierce also was 12 Days of Christmas, 12-man battle royal, which he can get a shot at the Intercontinental title. Yeah. Okay.
This is the best you could come up with for Sami Zayn?
Yeah, apparently. Well, he's not resigning, apparently. Although,
I think he will.
Oh, I think he will. So I don't know why people think he's. I mean, Kevin Owens just resigned.
Yeah.
So why would Sami not resign? I think it's ludicrous that he would not resign at all. Especially because people are like, oh, look, they're burying Sami for Brock. It's like, no, he's building the story. I loved Sami being involved with this, and people say, oh, no, he's on TV time. He's being fucking entertaining. And two, he's, Brock giving a rub from Brock Lesnar. I don't know about you, but if anything, I would say it's the opposite of being buried.
It's definitely the opposite.
He's getting pushed. And so now, though, you've given him this push, and we're going to come up with this dumbass 12 Days of Christmas 12-man battle royal for an Intercontinental Championship. What the fuck was that? Like, you just had him wrestling, Roman and Brock on the same night, essentially, where Brock beat the shit out of him and then stands up and says, okay, Roman, have your fun, just to get the title, shot out the way. So that's over and done with. So he's not in line anymore. And so I get that, that he's not technically in line anymore because he lost his shot. But I don't know. I want to see more Sami on my TV. I want to see him. I was hoping they were going to keep some of this going.
If you need time filled on your TV show, just hand Sami a microphone and push him out there for 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it was entertaining.
He doesn't need anything prepared. He could literally talk for 10 minutes about anything. If you've ever heard him on a podcast, you know that.
I've not heard him on a podcast.
Oh my God, he is that guy. It's just, he's not as ridiculous as the TV character, but like in terms of having thoughts and opinions about things, he definitely does, and he will definitely talk about them. So anytime I'd be like, God, I got to kill 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever here on my program because I got nothing, I'd be like, Sami, get over here. Go out there. And then, like, even if he just, every time you needed space filled on the show, if you told Sami to go out there and start talking about conspiracies and then have security come and pull him back, like if you do that 3 or 4 times during a show, that's a good chunk of time you just saved yourself right there.
Sure, true.
And it'd be funny because it keeps happening. Like the more it happens, the funnier it gets because it's like, oh my God, they really did not eject him from the building yet. And then that's entertaining. Yeah. But what do I know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Apparently you and I both don't know shit.
Obviously I had not thought of that before today. I just thought of it while we were talking here. Now imagine these guys have a week to come up with this.
Wow. Okay. And they can't.
Can't do it.
That's crazy. And so then after that moment where we hear about the battle royal, and then we see Sheamus and Rich Holland make their entrance, and then Cesaro comes out, and they get attacked to a commercial break. So they can't even get the match get started because they have to jump them before the match because Ridge Holland and Sheamus are such hooligans, and Cesaro is a posh European, and of course, we've got to beat up the posh European, and they beat him up, and they can't even get to the match. They have to go to commercial break because again, this was timed so well, and then we get this match where it's Cesaro versus Ridge Holland with Sheamus, which it should have been basically a handicap match, and it just, I don't know. We've seen Cesaro lose to Ridge but beat Sheamus, but yet now loses to Ridge again. So, again, Cesaro, another guy. Is it just because they can do whatever they want with him, so they're doing this kind of all kinds of random bullshit and not putting him anywhere near the title? And granted, I know he had his moment with Roman, and it wasn't necessarily the greatest, with it, but I can still see Cesaro as someone with the title one day, just not when you have someone like Roman who's been as dominant as he's been. But I don't get what the deal is. Like, again, this is another person like Tony Storm. It's like it almost feels like they enjoy feeding shit to him, and he keeps just making us love him because he does good stuff with it. I enjoy his work in the ring personally, but that's just me. I mean, from what I see, I don't know, personally, people tell me he's really good. From my point of view, I think he's good. I just don't understand why he hasn't gotten any higher than he ever has in that aspect.
I kind of think and this is just a guess, but it's an educated guess, that if Vince McMahon sees you and he doesn't immediately see something in you, on you, whatever, it's going to be really, really hard to change his mind. And I think that when you look at a physical person like Cesaro, like he's impressive physically, but not necessarily like maybe because he's foreign and maybe because his promos aren't always the greatest, that kind of put a ceiling on him as far as like where they wanted to take him. And it look how long it took to even get that thing with Roman, right? It probably had to be Roman saying, because he's one of the boys, like, he deserves to something like this. So Roman probably had to campaign just for Cesaro to get that. And if it was anybody else, nobody would have listened. I think that's kind of the deal. I never liked Cesaro more than when he did the kind of very European United States Championship thing that he was doing.
Yeah.
I really felt that was a place that he could eventually grow into a main eventer with that sort of gimmick and presentation. But somewhere along the way, there was like a bunch of different turns and tweaks and different things. And I don't know what all happened, but it's just not there anymore. I think that the time has passed. So he'll just be that, kind of pun intended, Swiss Army knife where they can just throw him out there to do whatever they need.
Right.
But they don't look at him as like that entertainer. Maybe it's because he takes his craft so seriously that they kind of get annoyed with him because he's not going to be a sports entertainer. You know what I mean? Right. Or that he can't pull it off the same. Or when he tries, it doesn't come off the same. Not really sure. Only just a few guesses, but yeah, it's I guess it's unfortunate. I also don't really mind it. I could take or leave Cesaro, really.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and then what about this whole pairing Ridge Holland with Sheamus? Like, it doesn't seem like they need each other, but yet, that's the other thing I haven't figured out is they're pairing them together as if Ridge needs Sheamus, and then Sheamus, or is it because Sheamus is older and not necessarily, as I don't want to say ring ready, but doesn't need to, doesn't have as many bumps on his bump card, and he can let Ridge do some of the heavy lifting. Is that more of what it is, or is it because I don't feel like they need each other? But
I think that's more of a byproduct as like a lucky bonus for Sheamus rather than anybody caring about Sheamus's well-being. They'll run you into the ground until you're dead. They don't care.
True.
So as long as they're going to keep, as long as you're going to keep letting them, they're going to keep doing it. It could be as simple as they made Sheamus wear a goofy coat and hat. And I'd love to pin the coat and hat for Ridge Holland on the WWE, but I can't because he was already doing that in NXT UK before anybody ever saw him. He had that stupid club, that stupid hat, and that stupid coat. So that was somebody's idea if it wasn't his, but it was nobody in America. So he brought that stuff with him. So maybe somebody saw him doing that and they're like, hey, this guy's got a dumb coat and hat. Let's put him with Sheamus.
Right.
And we could have a European dumb coat and hat team. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Yes.
And then they can justify it by saying, oh, he'll get the rub from Sheamus too.
Right. Yeah.
You look at Ridge Holland, doesn't he just look like a prototype Vince McMahon wet dream? Like this is exactly the kind of guy that it's like Vince used to want guys like this in the 80s, but they were all uncoordinated. Now guys are coming in that are that big and very coordinated. Right. So, this is kind of like, this is where if you're, somebody that's trying to get Vince to look at a certain, to praise you for finding a talent, you definitely parade somebody like Ridge Holland, like, look at this guy. He checks a lot of boxes. White, jacked, doesn't trip over his own feet in the ring. Also a European. He has an accent. So that can cover up for a lack of perceived charisma sometimes. If you have a British accent, people almost believe you have charisma automatically. So, that seems like exactly who you'd want to show to Vince to get in his good graces.
Right. Yeah. But then you have so for example, tonight, this match, I think again, because Cesaro was involved with it, I felt it was a decent match. It wasn't terrible compared to what we've seen before from the rest of the night. But the ending, why did Ridge Holland need the club? I mean, I don't understand that either. Again, you have guys like Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Ridge Holland. Of course, they're all European, but they're coming in the ring with weapons. They don't need these weapons. And Ridge didn't need that tonight against. Really, he didn't. I didn't feel like. Yet used it anyway to get a power slam and a cheap win. And so. But why? It doesn't.
The weapons are an accessory they can include with the Mattel line of action figures that they're obviously going to produce.
True,
that's what it is.
But I guess as a wrestler, if you're supposed to be a badass, isn't that negate the badassery of the wrestler if he's going to come with a club and use the club?
A little bit, but it's also in their mind. It's also heat, because this is a thing that a lot of people miss. And I'm not saying that I fully agree with it one way or the other, but the psychology behind it is, look at Ridge Holland. He doesn't need a club to beat anybody. That's basically your point, right?
Yeah,
right.
I don't
right,
think
John.
So.
He doesn't look at him. So. Why would he need a club to beat somebody? Well, that's the way you feel about that is exactly why they do it, because they want you to hate him for that. You could beat anybody on your own. You don't need to cheat.
Yeah.
That's what's supposed to make a heel. That's why guys have always historically, you see some big ass strong heel and then they have some gimmick in the tights and it's man, fuck you. You don't need that, dude. If you just come in and beat everybody's ass because you're the badass, aren't you just a babyface then? What's not to like?
True.
So you got to give them some reason not to like you. Now, I agree with it to an extent. Is it lazy? Yes. Is it cliche? Yes. Is it tried and true? Also, yes. Sure. But you can see the level of effort they're putting into this stuff. So it's really not surprising that they fall back on certain things like this.
Yeah.
Also, it's a little accessory for your Mattel toy.
True.
But that's kind of that's the thought process behind it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I kind of was spaced out during this or distracted during this match. So the way I remember it is Cesaro comes to the ring and they attack him before.
Right.
Right?
Commercial break.
Yeah, commercial break. Then they basically kicked Cesaro's ass the entire match and then beat him flat.
Yeah.
I did the club come in again, or did he just beat him?
No, he came in at the end because Cesaro, he gets him out of the ring for a minute, and he hits him with a running uppercut into the barricade, and then gets him back in the ring. But Sheamus distracts him, allowing Holland to hit him with his clubs in the ribs, and then Holland hits a power slam for the win. So. That's the club was involved in the match to win, but the ref didn't see it because Sheamus was involved and distracts him, and so and then they beat him up after the match too.
So yeah. Right, and nobody did anything about it, right?
Right.
Okay. So Cesaro has no friends in this locker room that everybody supposedly respects and loves him. But he has no friends. So in this instance, the way I would have rebooked this is either you don't do it at the beginning or you don't do it at the end. It's either hit him with the club, go to a break. We don't know if we can have this match. We got to take a break. He comes back. Yes, he is going to fight. Daniel LaRusso is going to fight. Like that thing. You get that moment. Cesaro, people get up for it. They want to see it. Boom, boom, boom. Have your match, whatever. Then at the end, if you want to do that lame distraction spot into a power slam, that's it. Now, it's still like a clean win between the bells. But you know that he hit him before, so it's still dirty. But like in between those bells, Ridge Holland didn't cheat. He just took advantage of what he had already done before.
Right.
Either that, or you just start the match like normal, and then the distraction, then the club, then the finish. Like you don't do it twice.
Right.
That's overkill.
Yeah. And that it made no sense to me to do it twice. Like I guess that's where I was confused. It's like, okay, you beat him, you use the club to beat him, you put him down, and then you beat him up again. And it says, basically it was, a Hogan must pose moment where, they were posing at the end, but like it didn't make any sense, And then, I don't know. I just, the logic behind it was not necessarily solid, but then again, I've come to expect that from WWE, They're not logical.
It's very sad. It's very sad. You got so much talent. Even after releasing 80 people, you still got too many people.
Yeah.
And you can't use any of them right. And Sonic has a question. He says, what are any of these guys getting out of doing any of this? So the way I believe that things happen is they got a writing team. They got a team of people, right? And I assume, at least in the past it's been this way, but the assignments are sort of broken down. Like, everybody gets so many wrestlers to write for, or wrestlers have a certain writer, just like they often might have a certain agent. Now the agents get cycled and maybe the writers get cycled, but there's got to be like a certain level of people. It's like, look, you write for so, and then everybody gets the workload distributed. Right. Well, if everybody comes in at the, in the meeting, in the production meeting and hands in their stuff, maybe some of the stuff, they decide they want to keep it, and then other stuff they decide they don't. And that's why some people don't get a match every week, because whatever their writer wrote for them wasn't good enough to make the show or whatever, which you got to think, like, obviously I know the first thing that comes to your mind, John, is like, well, how bad could it be if it didn't make this fucking show? Right.
Exactly.
So, but it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It could be good, and that's why it's not on. Like, somebody could have wrote the best angle ever for Drew Gulak, and they'd be like, this is too good for Drew Gulak. Crumple, 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 wastebasket, and then we'll just do 5 more recaps. That's how things can happen. It sounds ridiculous. Like, if you're hearing that, you're hearing me explain that to you guys, like, for the first time, and you're thinking, what? How could that even be real? Trust me, it can be that real.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the case with just creatives in general, is that you run into these things where you hit these walls, and of course, well, we're going to go with what's easiest. Let's do a recap, or let's do something along those lines. Because, but we hear about, like, back in the day, The Rock had the guy that's with his production company now, that
Brian Gewirtz,
and all these kinds of things. Is it that they're not hiring writers who understand character, or like, I mean, because we had writers and stuff and things like that who were handling things before, but it just seems like today now we're not getting that. Apparently Freddie Prinze Jr. was very involved and wrote some really good stuff for some people back in the day. What's the difference now? Why are we not getting that same quality from these people? from
The Brian Gewirtz quality.
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
I know it's still better than this. It's still
Yeah.
better than that.
yeah,
It's just kind of a thing where you used to have a head writer. You didn't used to have that even position before. There was no such thing as a head writer. At a certain point, it would just be like Vince and Pat Patterson kind of booking stuff, and then you had Vince and Ed came in, and they were the first like head writers that you would say writer, and when they were gone, then you had the Brian Gewirtz, and then you had I think Ed Koski's still there, isn't he?
I'd have to look. I don't know.
Well, whatever. And then some people have, passed through for a cup of coffee and gone on to do their own things, like Court Bauer or whatever. But I think they want to keep it like there is no head writer. There's just a team, and you don't have that one person like steering the ship other than Vince McMahon if he's the one ripping it up at the end of the day. Like there's not going to be a Brian Gewirtz anymore because they don't even want somebody to have that much power. So
True.
I think that's what it is. And if Sonic didn't mean that, if he meant Sheamus and Ridge and Cesaro, what did they get out of fighting each other? Like if you're talking from a kayfabe standpoint, nothing. It's just nothing.
Hey, they're getting
nothing
they're
at
getting
all.
TV time. If nothing else, they're getting TV time, which is more than some of these guys in the back that we've seen, Ricochet and some of these other guys.
Yeah, I guess it's like, I guess if you want to try to make sense of it, it's like Ridge is like the new girlfriend that's jealous of the ex-girlfriend that's going after Cesaro, like trying to prove himself to Sheamus, right? Like that. I think that's the psychology behind it. I'm not saying it's good, but I think that's what they think they're doing. I don't know what the point of it is. I don't know why we're supposed to care about that more than anything else, but
yeah,
I mean that's what it is. But
because the European powers are going to come together again, and they're gonna bring back the EU. They're gonna bring them all together between Sheamus and Ridge and Cesaro. They're gonna make everything better.
And then Lisbeth here has a comment interesting saying WWE wants X number of real stars and the rest are just set dressing. Well, that's true to an extent. But this would be like if you're looking for set dressing and you have a nice potted plant that you can use for set dressing, and then you leave that back there and you just scribble a tree on the wall in crayon or something, and that's your potted plant.
Right.
Like you're choosing to go through that extra work of drawing a shitty looking tree rather than just use the potted plant you already had. That's the difference of what they're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, of course we also know too that it's been said that they don't want certain stars to reach a certain level either because they don't want people to be bigger than the brand. I mean, we've seen that, we've heard that as well. So it's almost like they're writing people to be just big enough.
But that's not quite true too, because what would you call Roman Reigns?
Yeah, I mean, no, you're right.
And they've already given him a part in a movie, like. And yeah, because of The Rock, but still.
I mean, yeah, and he was on cancer treatments during that time, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, making a movie's not hard. You can have cancer and make a movie, but yeah. So that's the thing. Like, they say that, but then they still like, oh, here, Roman, here's a push and millions of dollars, and oh, here, Brock, please don't go anywhere else. Here's millions of dollars and whatever you want, anything. Like they still treat people like that are bigger than them. So it's just, but the problem is, who is going to be that guy that has the match with Roman that makes the money? Right. If you bury everybody else, there would have been a time when if they had for years consistently built this person, there would have been a time when you couldn't have had a more awesome match than a Roman Reigns and a Kevin Owens. Sure. But as it was just like, oh, well, I guess it's Kevin Owens' turn. Yeah. And I'm sure Roman had no problem with that because I'm sure he loves working with Kevin Owens. Right. It's probably very fun for him. But I mean, like, that should have been a thing that people should have been excited about because you would have had years to build Kevin Owens to the point where you thought, oh, shit, he might actually beat Roman Reigns. Nobody believed that he would.
Right.
I'm talking about this past January, whatever their match was. Right. So, yeah, so it's like they short sell themselves by subscribing to the no one will be bigger than the company philosophy. Shit, you don't need them to be bigger than the company. You just need to be better than nothing.
Yeah.
You need to just give people enough that we want to buy your product,
Right.
sell it, buy a ticket, buy a shirt.
Yeah. It like you said, I think at one point, the money is the biggest issue, is making sure we're making money still, and that you're a draw with the money that you bring in. So
Yeah, you want to report record profits during a time when you had no touring expenses.
yeah,
Then when you go back on tour, all of a sudden a bunch of wrestlers and production staff get laid off.
because
Do they? How dumb do they think we are?
Oh well, they obviously think that we're pretty dumb. I mean, we're still watching SmackDown though, but
But how dumb?
Yeah, that's the real question: is how dumb are you? How dumb are you?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we got to talk about this Naomi segment
Yeah.
with Sonya Deville, and he wants to face Sonya 1-on-1, and she knows she's back there listening and face her, and he comes out and calls her unprofessional, says she's tired of telling her that, and she's wearing a suit and can't touch her. And WWE put on their Twitter, all Naomi wants for Christmas is to face Sonya Deville 1-on-1. And it's just like, Deville says she's happy. She knows someone who'd be desperate to fight Naomi, Shayna Baszler. Of course, we're gonna get this. Naomi asks her to get in the ring and fight. Deville gets in the ring and says she'd be happy to beat her up, but Shayna attacks Naomi from behind again. And of course, we get a ring bell, and I don't understand this. Like, Sonya, I don't understand this whole thing. I don't get it. I can't even put my brain around it.
There's nothing to get.
I can't. I don't.
If you're listening to audio only, Enright is clutching his head in desperation. His Santa hat. I'm trying to hold it down from blowing off his head in steam.
Exactly. I'm at this point. My brain cannot handle this shit anymore. I want it to be over and done with. I'm tired of this bullshit. No explanation, dragging it on, seeing the same shit every week. I'm done with it. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
I'll give you one bright spot though.
Okay, please.
Naomi made her entrance, and then they went to break, and then they came back to Naomi.
Yay! They got it right.
Midway through the show, they figured it out.
Yeah, no shit. God.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, all this stuff, like, poor Shayna, poor Naomi, poor everyone.
Yeah.
None of them deserve to be doing any of this, really.
Yeah.
And, you see this situation where she gets jumped, right? And you're like, oh, I guess the protector's about to come out.
Right, exactly.
No. Forget all that. Yeah. We ain't doing that. She just beats Shayna straight up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. Gets beat up, and then, Naomi fights and then rolls her up for a win,
Yeah. Everybody deserves better. I think we deserve better. We should just move on to the next thing. Actually, wait. We should probably skip it because that's the Great Depression in the boiler room or something.
Yes, exactly.
And we find out that somehow at this card of day one that they're really trying to get over this brand new pay-per-view. One of the things that you're going to be having on this, it's got to be on the pre-show. There's no way it's not on the pre-show.
Right.
Is Drew McIntyre, your former WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, versus Madcap Moss.
In a match. On a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Possibly the pre-show.
But
the fact that they would even billboard it and mention it here, like, who wants to see that? Like, it's not like the match wouldn't be Baron Corbin if there was a match to have at all. Like, the lackey on pay-per-view, shouldn't the lackey be the Friday before?
Right. That should have been that SmackDown before going into the pay-per-view and then you wrestle Corbin going, I don't even know. God, like, this was just awful.
Let's try not to think about it.
No, okay. What
keep on checking.
We're not talking about what? Okay, yes, I guess. And then the next thing is the New Day versus the Usos.
Wow. New Day made an entrance, and then they went to break, and then back to New Day.
Yay!
2 in a row.
Hey, they're getting it.
It wasn't a fluke. It was not a fluke.
It was not a fluke. So I haven't heard your opinion yet, but how are you liking the King, the King Woods, and Kofi being the right hand? This whole King of the Ring thing that he's working on it. I know Kofi. I mean Xavier was big in pushing on bringing back King of the Ring. So it made sense for him to have it. Are you enjoying him in this character?
Not really. No. I don't hate it as much as, say, for example, Ben Hameen hates it. I really wish they weren't doing it. The worst part about all of it is that we have to act like Xavier Woods should be this level of, like a threat or
Right.
something. Like just the idea that he would defeat Finn Balor in a singles contest in any fashion seems outrageous to me based on if forget my personal opinions, just the way you presented both these guys on the show. One of these guys is the guy in New Day that takes the fall most of the time, and the other guy is the guy that was just in a program with Roman Reigns. So to have Xavier Woods beat that guy clean makes no sense.
Yeah.
And to have him continue to be in these like main event level feuds or whatever, like just because he's got a stupid crown, 2 stupid crowns, that makes no sense. So I don't enjoy that aspect of it. And I don't, but like him just acting like an idiot and pretending to be royalty and stuff like that. I mean, that's within character for him. So it's not completely out of the blue, but I really don't care for it that much.
Like, do you think though, making him King of the Ring, they felt obligated to make him feel more important and like going after Roman and stuff like that? I don't think so. I don't either, which is why I don't understand why they like did that. It made no sense.
Since when do they care about making people important? I would have thought the WWE way would have been to have this whole King of the Ring tournament because of him and then have him not win it. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Me too. I honestly did not have him pegged to win because I knew he was one of the ones pushing for it.
Yeah, like who? How are you blackmailing them into giving you what you want? Who's got the sex tape of who here?
Yeah, I know what I mean. Exactly. Wow. Ooh, we brought that back into it. Which that was interesting. But yeah, so we get this match, and again, this is I don't know how to describe it because I've seen this match so many times.
And this was not one of their best.
No, it was not. It was a going through the motions. We're getting this done. Let's just kind of get out here match. And
especially knowing we've got another one coming in a couple of weeks.
Right. And we've got another one coming. That's the whole point. It is
so you almost have to tank this match because you're going to want to have a better one. But then you don't want to have a shitty match either, so it's like you just had a match that existed.
It's here, and I mean, I guess, I understand because you don't want to do anything too stupid before you have one for day one, but man, I don't know. This is just there, and I hate that. I hate that because this is the last wrestling we're seeing for the night, because, you're watching this and then you realize, oh, damn, there's about 10 minutes still left to go. So I guess
Roman Reigns is going to have about enough time to make it to the stairs before they have to cut the feed.
Right, exactly. This goddamn interest. And so, yeah, finally, New Day wins on, Trouble in Paradise, and then Paul Heyman is outside, and Roman's finally into the arena, and he's sitting with the title, and Roman says, "Let's go to my ring." And Paul Heyman, looking like the just love-shorn schoolgirl as he looks at Roman Reigns. It's so great. And then we have a segment. We go to a commercial break and then they figured it out. Look, hey, Roman is walking to the ring, and they go to commercial, and they come back, and he's made it to the ring. And
they cut the feed and were like, hurry this shit up.
Yeah,
get in there.
Get in there.
It's the shortest entrance he ever made at 5+ minutes.
Right, exactly. Oh, man.
New record. Take that, Natalia.
Way to go. And so then he goes and he tells Chicago to acknowledge him. And he doesn't like it when his cousins lose. And then their family, and they can still get through anything. And then he turns to Heyman and says, "But you are not my blood." And he says you should know better than anyone that he can't have people disrespecting him. So he's going to ask him some questions he's asked before. Can I trust you, wise man? And Roman says he took a week off because he knows everything that goes on, and Heyman looked a little shady to him. He asked if Heyman knew Brock was coming back at SummerSlam, if he'd be at MSG, if his suspension was going to be lifted, and most importantly, is he a special counsel or an advocate? So we see Heyman just, again, Paul Heyman, dude, just, they don't pay this guy enough money. He's just so good at this. And he's looking scared and lost for words and requests the microphone, but Roman won't give it to him. Heyman gets one from an announcer and then goes to speak to Roman and asks him to acknowledge him with the truth. Why are you protecting Brock Lesnar from me? Heyman laughs and says, my tribal chief, I am not protecting Brock Lesnar from you. I am protecting you from Brock Lesnar. And which, was, wow. Okay. All right. That was, interesting to say the least. To hear that phrase from Paul Heyman. Did you, I mean, is that something you think, I guess I'm trying to say is like, it felt like in a way, it wasn't like a double cross per se, but it was more of a, I don't want to lose this gravy train. So I'm trying not to get you involved with Brock Lesnar,
Yeah. I think
that's what I felt like.
That's the subtext of it. Also, like, it implies that because this is obviously not the first time that Roman and Brock have crossed paths,
right?
Even just with Paul Heyman on Roman's side, they've already had like at least a couple matches, right? So it's like, so maybe what Paul is, implying here, or that we can infer, is that Brock is somehow more dangerous and more of a threat now.
Right.
And you see the way he's been behaving, Adam Pearce and Sami Zayn and stuff like that. You're just, so it's like, hey, maybe this Brock is not the same Brock that you handled, or something like that.
Right. Exactly. It's a more, to me, it's a more unhinged Brock. So he's, I want to keep this gravy train going. But Roman's not happy. He hugs him and says, I love you, wise man, and I thank you for your honesty, and I thank you for your 40 years of service to my family, and you're fired. And Heyman looks shocked, and Roman drops him with a Superman punch. Of course, the fans love. So Roman Reigns requests 2 chairs, and he wants to concerto, but Lesnar's music hits, and he runs down to the ring and bowls over Jimmy and Jay. Brock hits both with F5 on the floor, and then he slides into the ring. Roman hits Brock with a chair a few times, but Lesnar scoops him up and hits an F5. Fans cheer, and Lesnar hits a second F5 to end the show. So here's my question. So Heyman's fired by Roman Reigns. Is this an attempt to like turn Roman babyface? Like, or is like, so we know that this match is happening. So who's the babyface and who's the heel in this instance? Like, I don't feel like Brock is a babyface. But I feel like at the same time, people have a very way they view Paul Heyman, and the fact that he punched Paul Heyman and took him out, and people were excited about that. It almost like as if they're trying to turn Roman face again. I don't know. This was hard to figure out.
I think they're clearly positioning Lesnar in the fan favorite mode. Just because Roman Reigns is being positioned in the evil head of the table mode. So you definitely when you see Roman acting the way he acts and doing the things that he does, you want to see him take that fall. You want somebody to knock him off the top. He's had it for a long time. The longer he has it, the more you want somebody to take it. I think Paul Heyman being associated with that, like, just because Roman fires him does not change anything about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's still the underhanded, conniving weasel he's always been. Paul Heyman's never been a babyface under any circumstances.
Right. Exactly.
Not in life and not in the story. So what I would say should happen here, and this would be like the only, continuous angle that they would get right most of the time. The worst thing you can really say about it is that I think they've kind of, run out of stuff already for them to do, which is probably why they decide to go with this branching off where Paul Heyman gets kicked out of the bloodline thing, right?
Right.
Because it's like, well, we're out of ideas. We were actually out of ideas 6 months ago, but we were able to drag it out a little bit longer.
Sure.
I think now it's going to be like the thing of like Paul Heyman trying to crawl back to Brock.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I'm the advocate. And Brock now having exactly what he wants is going to be like, well, I have no need for an advocate.
Right.
And then it leaves Paul as a man without a country. Roman's still a prick for kicking him out. Brock Lesnar's still a hero for not accepting the weasel.
True.
So that it just leaves Paul Heyman out of it, and then they can figure out what they want to do from there. Maybe he just gets to be constantly harassed by Kayla every week. Who knows? Who also wasn't there this week, right?
Right,
They switched it up to Sarah Schreiber.
Yeah.
So hey,
Yeah. Who knows?
yeah. But I hope that answered your question somewhat.
Yeah,
That's just what I think. Who can ever attempt to get in the minds of madmen and try to like really make sense of it? But just going off what they're presenting to me, and then continuing from there with my own logic, that's what I would think.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, like you said, who knows? We can't figure this stuff out. I mean, you and I have general ideas of what we think could happen every week, but yet then, they go a completely different direction, and it's not necessarily good anyway. So, but yet, it's one of those things where this is probably the only thing that was mildly interesting for the entire night, that we watched on this thing. And even then, I still walked away going, okay, but where are they going? I know we have day one coming. I know Paul Heyman's now fired. And like you said, are we going to get the route of him going back to Brock Lesnar and Brock going, I don't need an advocate, and seeing Paul Heyman struggle? I think, I would like to see that story. But so far, this is the only thing that is of mildly any interest to me whatsoever. And what I guess the question becomes, if they want to sell this pay-per-view on the SmackDown half of it, is there anything they could do to make anything more interesting? Like the Naomi thing, is there something they could do to make that more interesting with Sonya Deville? Because I'm done with that shit. Obviously we have New Day and the Usos.
My favorite line of the night, by the way, is it's because it's so simple, and I don't think it didn't seem like something that would have been written. It might have been, but it's just the scene where like when Sonya's coming out and she's like, as long as I have this suit on, you can't touch me, and Naomi's just like, take it off.
Yeah.
just the way she said it, like,
yeah.
Not like a big overacted, well, take it off then, WWE type, promo voice, but just take it off. Like is that simple to her. Like, she's done with it too. You could tell Naomi's done with it.
Right. Yeah.
I think they want you to feel that frustration. Like, again, these things that you talk about, in the best of times, in the best of circumstances, with the best of the talent and the best of the producing, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be like so fed up with Sonya, like, God, just Naomi, kill her already. But right. I don't know if that's the effect that it's having. I think the average person starts to not care if Naomi gets her hands on Sonya or not, because they've just lost interest altogether.
Right.
And they don't think that the payoff could possibly be any, better than the build or whatever.
Right.
Or
well,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it could surpass the...
But couldn't we have also, wouldn't we by now have known why Sonya really just doesn't like her, even though she hasn't said it? I mean, that I guess that's the most frustrating part, is we're seeing all these things. It's obvious that she doesn't like her, but she's saying stuff, I don't like, it's not that I don't like you. There is obviously something there, but we don't have a purpose or a reason for it. And that's where I think, for me, if I had a purpose for a reason of like, hey, remember when Mandy was going after your husband? Well, I'm still pissed about that. Like, if that's the case, I don't know, or
right.
I'd like to at least know something, oh, you got that booty in the back and I don't have an ass, so I'm mad about that. I don't care. I mean, whatever
something,
it is,
right?
Just give me something instead of this.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, at this point, nothing would be worth it to you.
Right.
You'd be like, because you're already so frustrated and bored, you're like, oh, that's it? Fuck it. I hate it even more now, because that's what they're going to come up with. See, that's the thing.
Right.
They should come up with the reason first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I want to do a thing with Sonya and Naomi. Well, why? Because Naomi thinks that, or because Sonya thinks Naomi has a better ass than her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now let's tease that out for several weeks, and then we'll finally reveal it. That's how it's supposed to be. You work backwards from what you want to do.
Right.
This, it's like, okay, we're gonna have Naomi and Sonya in a thing. Why? I don't know. We'll just figure it out, and then they never figure it out, and then they get to a point where it's like, well, we don't need to figure it out. No one cares, because it's like almost like what you were saying with the Roman and Brock thing. There's not much else interesting on the SmackDown side of it. Are they just saying like, dude, nobody cares about anything except Brock and Roman, so why should we even put any effort into anything else?
True. It could be.
That could be what we're looking at. So
could be what we're looking at. I mean, I don't know. Like I struggle with a lot of that, but at the same time too, we do know that there's no Shinsuke this week, no Boogs.
I'm glad he didn't kiss fucking Woods' hand.
Oh my gosh, that was
Boogs kissed it.
Yeah, Boogs kissed it. I forgot about that. That Boogs is there, but like, yeah, no Shinsuke. But I think Elizabeth says she thinks that Shinsuke is supposed to have a match at day one. Which, by the way, he's the Intercontinental Champ. We haven't seen anything from him in forever. He's always wrestling in tags with Boogs lately. I guess to help give Boogs the rub. But the question becomes like then too, like, all right, we know we have this 12 days of Christmas 12-man battle royal for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know. Like it feels like the title that time forgot. That's just been lost in the weeds because we haven't seen anything from it. I guess the question is if we are not using it, why have a mid-card title if we're not using it? I mean, it feels like it's gone to the black hole of nothingness. And again, how do you have a title like that and not use it? Is that again just poor management and writing on your part, or is it something else? I don't know.
How much can it mean at the end of the day?
It must
like
be
when you have two main champions, which that already is an oxymoron.
Mm-hmm.
Then what are the secondary belts even supposed to mean?
Sure.
It's not like you would think that what didn't they used to say stuff like that maybe in WCW or something they said like the United States champion is the automatic number one contender at any given moment for the World Heavyweight Championship, or
I think it was something like that. I think it was something like that. Yeah,
some shit like that. Maybe they just pulled that out of their ass back then too, but I know they said it in the past. Like, so that is kind of the idea. It's like you should, if you have Intercontinental Championship on Shinsuke, then you're going to want to put him in the main event thing at some point or another. That's the whole idea, is so that people are seeing like, well, he's definitely a champion of some caliber. So is he ready for the big championship? That kind of a deal.
Right.
And I know they don't want to pull the trigger on that because he's Japanese and whatever, and the inherent racism and all that. But, but he's also been devalued at this point too. So it just wouldn't make sense to do it at this current moment.
Right.
I don't know. Or even he did have a thing with Roman Reigns briefly, or they teased it at some point, like it was going to happen, and then some other bullshit happened. I forget.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah. There was, I think it was right when Cesaro was doing the thing. And there was some stuff there. But Sonic says, is a gauntlet not a battle royal? And has said, no, a gauntlet is a match where, if I remember this correctly, you start off with two people in the ring. The winner stays in and keeps going until they lose, and it's however long you last till that last match. That's a gauntlet match, right? From my understanding.
Yeah.
And then a battle royal is your Royal Rumble. But like from my understanding, the battle royal, everybody's already in the ring, whereas the Royal Rumble is you have two people and you're adding people at a specific time. So a battle royal is a Royal Rumble, but everybody's already in the ring and you're working your way out. And then a gauntlet is where you're working your way to it. Now you can have a tag team gauntlet where tag teams do that as well, and the winner keeps going as far as they can. with the advantage being whoever's the last person in the gauntlet match. Because
whatever it is, none of us asked for it.
Yeah.
And nobody wants it.
It's going to be shitty.
It's just going to be another waste of time on the show.
But I would rather that than the Great Depression.
Yes.
Let's be honest. At least we're getting something like that than the Great Depression. So
yes,
that's
well, anyway, so
that was your SmackDown. That was your SmackDown. You're probably two of the most miserable people talking about one of the shittiest SmackDowns ever about it.
Well, I think we made it fun though. I had fun.
I had fun with
it
too.
The only thing that could make this shitty SmackDown good is getting to talk about it with my buddy John Enright, who I definitely know his name and have never messed it up and called him the wrong name.
That's okay. It's fine. So, Vet, let's get the people to tell you where they can find you on the internets and all that fun stuff. And
tell me where you can find me, guys. I don't even know anymore. I'm so lost. I'm at Opinion Haver everywhere. When I say everywhere, that's what I mean. That's Twitter. If Instagram's your thing, I'm also there. If you like YouTube, I have a channel. I don't put nothing on it, but it's there. You can look at it and mess around with it. Twitch, I don't stream nothing, but I'm on there. I deleted my TikTok, John. So sorry.
No.
But I'm on there. So if you want to add me, I probably have like a bunch of like ad requests on TikTok or whatever
you probably did.
Completely unanswered.
Yeah.
And even Snapchat. I took one of those. I don't use that. They asked for a lot of permissions from you, and I was like, it's shady. Delete. But I got Opinion Haver before I did. So the important thing is that nobody else can do that. I was going to do Rad Rob favorite Christmas movies, but he had to reschedule. So that's going to be Wednesday. So after you hang out on Next Level Wrestling Review on Wednesday, then a few hours later, you'll be able to see me jump on with Rad Rob and we'll talk about those Christmas movies. And hopefully you'll be there and let us know your favorite Christmas movies.
Okay. All right. James and I had a big argument over this. I want to know your opinion. Die Hard, is it a Christmas movie?
I think so. It's not a Christmas movie in the sense that, it's going to be on the Hallmark Channel or, or it's not like, it doesn't have like miracles and Santa and talking snowmen and things like that. But it takes place during Christmas, and Christmas very centrally figures into the story in certain ways that make it fun. So I used to watch Die Hard on Christmas every Christmas long before the internet decided that they wanted to have this, this debate that I had already settled in my mind like decades earlier. All these kids think they invent shit like arguing about pineapples on pizza, like they invented that with the internet. No, you didn't. We already settled these things a long time ago as adults, but kids got to feel included sometimes too.
Put your pineapple on your pizza, and Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue it too much, but I would just have to ask you to define that what is a Christmas movie.
So I don't even think Home Alone is a Christmas movie because the premise of the movie, if it can be taken out of that time period or that thing, then it's not a Christmas movie. So like Die Hard, which is proven, they put it in other places and outside of Christmas. So therefore, to me, that's why it's not a Christmas movie. So Home Alone to me is not even a Christmas movie. It's just a movie set at Christmas. So that to me is more of a thing. So whereas like obviously things like the Santa Claus or things like that, where Christmas is in peril because of the actions of a thing, that is a different aspect. If you remove Christmas from it and it can still stand alone, it's not a Christmas movie to me. That is my personal preference on Christmas movies in general.
But isn't the most important thing the feelings that you feel when you're watching it?
No, because I don't watch Christmas movies to begin with. Fuck all those Christmas movies.
The hell with you then.
Yeah, I mean, I like The Grinch. The Grinch is a great Christmas movie. Jim Carrey's version, it was just excellent. I really enjoyed that.
Excellent.
I really liked it. I thought
it's a word I would never ascribe to.
Well, those. Just when you think about the Dr. Seuss books and the cartoon, and then you watch Jim Carrey bring that to life, that to me was a really well done movie in that aspect.
I think if WrestleMania 3 is the original animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas, then this episode of SmackDown is the Jim Carrey's Grinch.
Oh,
That's
wow.
basically the way I look at it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's I mean, but to me, like, so I'm not Christmas Vacation is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And that to me that is the difference between a Christmas movie and a movie set at Christmas. Because the
Yeah.
whole premise behind Christmas Vacation is Christmas is in trouble because of his shitty boss and because of cousin Eddie and because of all these things. Because his idea is he wants a perfect Christmas, and everything keeps going to that. Yeah, I will agree with. Elizabeth. Yes, is a Christmas movie because Krampus is based off of European lore and such like that. So in a way, yes, Krampus is a Christmas movie, even though it is, whatever. So, but that's just my personal opinion. Of course, I don't have a degree in broadcasting or anything, so I don't know what I'm talking about, at all. So,
You don't have a degree in opinions, buddy. That's me.
that's right.
Opinion haver, PhD.
PhD. You got to add that. You start having that on the end of your
Gonna
tags.
add it.
Yeah, opinion haver PhD. All right, Vet. Well, everybody, where to find me. It's all on the internet. If you want to talk to us. By the way, one of y'all could have been on here if you'd have done what we asked when we had the contest to go onto Twitter and tell us where you watch from, and then to tag 3 people. There we go. Better. You could have been on this show with us and hosting with myself and the Vet if you would have just taken a picture of where you watch and tag 3 people. But no, none of y'all did that. None of y'all did that at all. And so, I mean, I'm a little upset. We're still trying to figure out what we're doing for the Christmas special. We may not make it for Christmas. James just being sick and recording situations that not added up very well. So this may be the last Smack Attack for 2022. Yeah, I know it's very, very sad because with Christmas and everything being on Saturdays, we're not,
How will we get everybody ready for day one, though?
Oh, no.
They're going to go into day one not knowing what to do because we didn't break things down for them.
Oh, no. Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe nothing at all. You'll have to figure it out yourselves. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Figure it out yourself. But if you do want to talk to the show, if you want to be a part of it, you want to be a part of the Smack Attack family, we love you guys in the chats. But also, don't forget, you can find us on Twitter at Smack Attack HMG. And then, of course, the email is somewhere. James has it. I don't normally know where it is. So you can message us there. You can also find us on Discord or in the Hobby Media group and let us know when you want to talk that way so that we can keep giving you wonderful opinions and wonderful things you need to know. So with that all said, as sad as this is, we have to end possibly the year with this Smack Attack on this episode of SmackDown. But Christmas is coming. So if nothing else, remember this. Christmas is coming. Thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for making what it is. Vet, thank you for always being available and coming on and making it that much better. We appreciate it. We always learn something when you're here. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it as well. And with that all said, I say adieu and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.